E na kua na aunga kua na poe kaiko. Molokai nui ahina. Aloha Aloha mahalo. E pulikako. Aloha na akua na alma kua e poe kahiko. Mahalo. Molokai hina. Mahalo. We pray to you at this time, to our higher beings, to our guardians, and to our ancestors, that you join us together in spirit, in mind, and in body as we come together for Kukakuka with Norfolk Island, with our Ohana, and with Kumu Kawika Foster. We ask at this time that you grant us the Ike, the ability to listen and understand and integrate the teachings that you have for us this morning. And we also ask at this time that you protect us from the kalohe and the kepalo, the mischievous energies and the ones who have crossed the line of no return. We also welcome an aloha Kumu Nui Lawrence Aki and all the generations before us who have perpetuated and continued the knowledge of our lineage from Molokai. And we just once again mahalo you for this wonderful day, the rising of the sun, the fresh breeze, the ocean, the waters, everything that you grant us. This is our simple and our humble pule, and we do send it to you in flight by speaking aloud a sacred and a powerful word, a word that has seen the passing of many different generations and has taken many shapes and forms throughout different lands. So we say, e amama, e amama, e amama. Mahalo naku.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you for that. All right, thank you everyone for joining. This is the 5th talk with you all. And Joe, would you like to give us an opening, an intro?
Okay, aloha mai kako. Yep, so the topic today is Ohana, ancestors and intuition, and Ohana means family. So we're going to talk about what these, the importance that Ohana, ancestors and intuition has in terms of Hawaiian way of thinking and being. So mahalo.
All right, mahalo. To start us off, let's drop into what Ohana is. Ohana is family. It is the understanding that everything in this universe is related to us, is family to us, is kin to us. The wind, the rain, the stars, the sun, the moon, all of it is an integral part of the whole of the Hawaiian Polynesian family system and dynamic and understanding. We got Damien joining us. And so it includes much more than just our human nuclear family. Indeed, it includes a lot more than even our human extended family. And Ohana is a really integral component of the understanding of the spirituality of our ancestry, because this is where we understand our place, our belonging, and also our relationship that we have to everything. There's much more to be shared about Ohana. Before we go into that, I'd like to also include in this part of the talk that our ancestors. When we speak of our ancestors, when we are including the wind and the rain and the sun and the moon as part of those ancestors that we speak of. In the Hawaiian Polynesian perspective and understanding, our ancestors is not a distant relationship or connection. There is, I want to go back to the Ohana. In family, there's no concept of separation. So again, in correlation to our ancestors, there's no separation between us and them, even if they are not physically present or in the living. Yeah, that we continue to maintain and to nurture and care for our ancestors in spirit, and also the ancestors that we include in such things as the wind and the waterfalls and the ocean, for example. So all of this is our family. Yeah, and ancestors are a generation of family. When we speak of or utilize the English word ancestors, it's important that we clarify that from a Hawaiian perspective, from a Polynesian perspective, that they are much closer than normally conceptualized. They are present, they are near and dear, and we continue to engage with them. We continue to communicate with them continually. So, and the way that we communicate with them continually is through our intuition. We call this place the place that is the home of our intuition, is what we call our na'au. Yeah, our na'au is the deep within. It's situated behind your belly button. It's in your deep innards, your guts, the bowl of your belly. This is your deep within. It's your na'au, and it's the home again of your intuition, and it's how our ancestors, our guardians, and also our gods, our goddesses, the higher beings that exist in this universe, communicate to us and through us. It's the place where they, it's the hub, yeah, that filters the information, the signs, the signals that we're receiving around us continually from our ancestors, and it processes it for our intellect, for our being, and it therefore serves as the microphone, really, or the telephone to our ancestors. Okay, and so there is a relationship. There is a deep family relationship with our intuition and our intellect. These two are they're siblings. They're twins. and I know we got some twins in the zone with us, so I'm sure you can understand that correlation, right? Many times what we see, what we witness in Western communities, in the Western mind, is a conflict between the intuition and the intellect. Many a times, because there's been such a distance or a separation that's been programmed into the thinking of a human being. When there comes a point of inspiration to assemble an understanding of life and its purpose and what it means to be a human being here, through the education process that they undergo, there's a return. In many different ways, there's a return to the intuition and what that place is, which as a whole really speaks a lot to the cultural practitioners of Hawaii, really, as to how far we've come as human beings, from the inherent birthed parts of who we are and what we are. And anyways, so what happens as they begin to attune themselves once again to their intuition, the conflict that arises is between the intellect and the intuition. Many times what we hear is that there is confusion in regards to where the information or the knowledge of what to do or how to do it is coming from. Many people strive to live an intuitive life, in a life that's inspired by intuition, is to, what drives them on a spiritual level. And the message, really, the teaching from our ancestors is that the mind, the intellect, and the intuition, the guts, and your na'au, are really, when they're in alignment with each other, they're the best of friends, they're twins, and they work simultaneously. They hold hands together. And regardless of where the information is coming from, because there is an alignment between them, and there's a clarity in their alignment with one another, that really all things are possible. And instead of them being in direct conflict with each other, then they can begin to work with one another. So that's really there's tons more to be shared, but I'd like to include you all in this segment of the sharing. And so, given the bits that I've shared with you, are there any questions or anything that's inspiring you at the moment about this discussion?
I have an inspiration on looking at our Ohana, and Hina, who I would put in the realm of higher being, however, also in the realm of ancestors. And understanding there's no separation, but if the question comes across, oh, is the moon our ancestor? Is it a higher being? Is she both? She does come before us, and when we pray to her, we put her in the realm of the higher being, or is it both ancestral relationship and our higher being?
Yep. Good. It's both, and it's both because we understand that everything in this universe is born. Right? And because it's born, there's a connection that there's a direct connection that we're able to make. And for the realm of our higher beings, right, for our gods and our goddesses, they're just on a different level. In the particular sharing of Hina, for example, yeah, she was a real woman, right? She lived and had human form. When she moved on, again, we maintain that intimacy of relationship, and we acknowledge her as taking the Kino Lao, the body form of the moon, right? So we're talking about our cosmological genealogy when we are speaking of Hina, and indeed when we're speaking of any of the higher beings, really, because they were of a different va, right? They were of a different phase. But she's both. Yeah. Like all of our gods and our goddesses. Ancestor and a higher being. Okay. Oh, something that's inspired me about that is that, when we're talking about our ancestors, we're not talking about all dead people. Yeah, that's very Western. It's in the Western mind setting to lump all dead people and their spirits into the category of your ancestors. Ancestors is to be recognized, to be acknowledged as an ancestor in Hawaiian and Polynesian understanding. You in the living, you had to do good things. Live a good life, do good things, so that when you passed on, yeah, you moved on. You didn't just stay here. Right. And you didn't stay here continuing to do the not so good things that caused you to stay here. Yeah. So our ancestors really, and this is to make it really clear for everyone, right? When we're speaking about our ancestors, we're talking about those members of our family that did good things, led good lives. We had a great, intimate, close relationship with them, and when they died, they left this realm and they went into the ancestral realm. They went into the spirit realm. And there's many different levels in the spirit realm, just as there's many different levels here in the physical realm. And what you do as a human being determines what level that you enter into when you leave this realm. So, when we yeah, when we're talking about our ancestors, that's really what we're talking about. For those that don't make it to those other levels, realms of spirit, we have a name for them. And you prayed for them, actually, in our prayer. Right? Protect us from the kolohe, the mischievous. Protect us from the kepalo, those who have crossed the line of no return. Those are the people that did not live good lives and did really horrible things. And so when they pass on into spirit, that's the level that's what they become, and that's the level that they reside on. But that level is here. That level is very close to the earth level. That's why we continue to see mischievous things happening here. So, yep, go ahead.
What I've been thinking about Papa and how she's an ancestor and she's the earth and her physicality and how she serves us and how we relate and serve her. And then I was thinking all physical has to have a spiritual, but all spiritual, I guess, doesn't always have to have a physical. There's a realm of spirit, which is full potential that hasn't completely manifested into the physical, because there's all different ways that may energize. But the physical, once it's manifested here, it is with the spirit. So is it correct to say the physical, and when we're being here, has the spirit, but the spirit may not always take a physical form? Or is, yeah.
Okay. Do you require clarification, or did you get it?
No, I don't require clarification. It doesn't have to take a physical form, obviously. Yeah, I guess.
Mahalo. All right. Does anybody have any questions about what we're discussing, where we're at? Any contributions?
I have a question.
Sure. Hi, Karen.
Do you have hi everyone. Do you have an example of a living ancestor in the body here now?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Okay, so in relation to using the term ancestors, and the Western mindset puts ancestors into those who are dead, and you said that's a Western concept. Can you give me an example of an ancestor who is alive in the living body here and now that you call an ancestor?
Yes.
Physical form as a human.
Oh, not as a human.
Okay, so that's the differentiation, the human.
Yeah.
So our ancestors are the wind and the stones and the mountains and the sea. And okay, thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just one other thing I'd like to add, some of the teachings in psychology and psychiatry in the last decade or so, they talk about the fact that we have three brains, obviously the brain in the head. They talk about, and that alludes to the intuition that you talk behind the belly button, because the second brain is the brain in the gut, and the third brain, not that they're in that sequential order, is the heart. The heart intuition is being recognized as a brain, those three brains: head, heart, and gut.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, look, science is catching on, psychology is catching on. That's good. But we've known this for a very long time. Yeah. Many of the indigenous cultures across the world understand. You know, from a Hawaiian perspective, we really, okay, so we break it down. Hawaiians don't break it down, but this is the understanding. Okay, so the mind is the home of your thoughts, your thinking, your intellect. Your intuition resides in your guts, in your na'au, in your deep within. Your emotions come from your heart. But directly speaking, right, to traditionalists, when we're dealing with from a traditional standpoint, we continue to focus on the spirit. This is what comes first. And if we want to change the way that we feel about something, meaning our emotional reaction to something, then we change the way that we think about it. You change the mind, you can change the emotional engagement, emotional reaction, response to it. So although the pu'uvai, the heart, is important and significant because we all have one, the emotion, breaking it down into the emotional body isn't something that isn't a concept that we hold in a traditional lineage. Mahalo. Brooke, did you have something that you wanted to contribute or ask?
So I guess, can you hear me okay? Yeah. The Western mind, I guess, which we all, I guess, well, certainly I am a victim of the Western mind, which is sort of linear, if you like. And so most of the philosophy and discussion that I've been involved in embodies a process of journey toward, say, if you like, a place of spiritual peace that your intellect can describe and you can achieve. But then if you say at the age of 50 or whatever, you arrive at a place which is a place of spiritual peace and you're able to disencumber yourself of bad thoughts and so on, does that then constitute a good life, or have you already done too much damage in your previous manifestation of your first 50 years, so that you're unable to be considered a good person? You know, so is there redemption in Hawaiian culture?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a process for that. Yeah, we call it ho'oponopono. Right, it's to make right again. Yeah. And yes, okay, so just boom, just totally directly for you, Brooke. Yes, it's not as severe as the concept of redemption, but there's an opportunity to turn around. Yeah, there's an opportunity to turn your bowl upside down and dump the stones out. There's an opportunity for change. Yeah, there always is, but it's really dependent upon the individual. Right? All things really come down to personal responsibility. Yeah, and for those that are you know, there's many different levels, right? There's many different levels of mischievous, not so good things. Yeah. That can be rectified. There's any number of levels of mischievous behavior. There's an opportunity to turn around and to change. Yeah. Really, the only line that we're speaking about in terms of, for example, kepalo, yeah, we define it as those who have crossed the line of no return. That line of no return is to willfully, intentionally, murderously take a life of someone. That's the line of no return. And when we see the potential of that happening to members in our family, we do as much as we can to calm, yeah, to get them to stop, to get them to turn around, so that it doesn't go there. But all of that really is dependent on the individual, on the person. Right? So in the understanding of a Hawaiian, for example, if you have a family member that's doing mischievous things, right? They're moving in a direction. And depending on how far along they are, they can be moving that direction quite fast. So you have to make a personal decision as to whether or not you're going to extend yourself to the cause, to the purpose of attempting to assist that person, that member of your family, to turn around, right? Because you have to match the level at which they're moving in that direction. 1. 2, you've got to multiply that by, for this example, this time, let's say you have to multiply it by like 100,000 to get them to stop. Then you've got to multiply that by like another 100,000 to get them to turn around. And then you've got to multiply that by like 100 million to get them to take the first step in the opposite direction in which they were originally heading. Can we do it? Is it possible? Absolutely. But we have to make the decision as to whether or not we're going to do that. Because it's a very treacherous road. It's a very delicate art form to be able to do that and still maintain your sanity. So ancient Hawaiian thought, our ancestors now, okay, they didn't mess around with that with those kinds of energies. And they knew that they were existent and around us all the time. And they acted and they lived their lives accordingly. This is why they spoke in metaphor and symbology and never spoke about anything directly. And we gotta kind of wonder why they were doing that. The reason they were doing that is because when you speak about something directly, they can hear you. Right. So, and they're a force to be reckoned with in this universe. Yeah. Too many times what we see particularly in spiritual communities or New Age communities, for example, there's a whole bunch of talk about the light and the love, and everything's very rosy, and everything's the oneness, and those are good things. Those are wonderful things. That is what it's about. And there is also the not so good things. So what we strive to do, particularly in the current climate of things, of life, this modern time, no matter what direction any member of our family is moving in, we find it in ourselves to love them anyways. Do we want you to go down the path where you'll become mischievous, and the potential or the risk of you doing things that you cannot come back from is very high? No, we don't. But if you continue to move in that direction, we're going to love you anyways. So when we speak of levels, and although I made it very clear about how we reference and acknowledge ancestors from a Hawaiian perspective, it really is neither here nor there what level you're on. Unconditional love is the same, whether you're applying it to somebody that's really, really good or somebody that's not so good. So, and it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to be considered a good person. Yeah. We're not talking about anything remotely close to the under the concept of perfection here. So, and if we hit, doesn't matter what age too. You know what I mean? You brought up 50. That's usually, you always hear the midlife crisis moments, right? Plenty of stories of that, the reevaluating life and trajectory and purpose and meaning at different stages. The significance of those opportunities in life to do so is that we change. Yeah. When the light bulb goes off, when the light switch gets turned on, and we have an opportunity to really look at it, look at what we're doing, look at what we've done. Those areas that need changing, you change. Yeah. And move on. Follow up, Brooke. I love that question. That was great. That was awesome. Any follow up? Anybody else inspired at the moment?
Yeah,
I did
Kawika,
actually
just
have,
got a
sorry.
slightly different. Oh, go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, I was only going to say, I did have a follow-up question, but you've already answered it, so thank you.
Well, but clarity's purpose, you know, what was the question? What was the follow-up question?
Well, really, I was looking to see where, I mean, my understanding of what you're saying about ancestors is that as we walk upon the earth, you know, through this garden that we've been given, our ancestry surrounds us on all sides. And so if, you know, I was looking to sort of understand probably what constitutes a good life and what doesn't. But you have answered that by saying, you know, clearly indicating, I guess, that if you have compassion and care, then you probably are at least living a good life. So that was my second, my follow-up question was what constitutes a good life, but you did
Good
answer
life.
that.
Yeah. You know, it really doesn't take much. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Hold on. You know, it's really difficult. It's so difficult sometimes to transfer the essence of the teachings of my ancestry, given the language that I'm speaking in. The English language is a direct reflection of the Western thinking mind. And so when we utilize words like good, the Western mind immediately thinks of its polar opposite. It immediately signals, oh, bad, you know. For example, we didn't have in Western, no, excuse me, in Hawaiian, in the Hawaiian thinking mind, yeah, in the mind of a Hawaiian, in the mind of a Kanaka Maoli, in the mind of a Kanaka Iwi, there's no such thing as wrong or right. And there's no such thing as good or bad. These concepts don't exist. When, for example, when we're talking about the mischievous, or we're talking about specifically the kepalo, right? The closest word in the English language that even comes close to identifying what the kepalo is the word evil. But we don't have a word. There's no word for evil in our language. It's not a concept like that. That's why when we're speaking about it in English language, we choose to identify with the words those who have crossed the line of no return. Yeah. Because there's still space, there's still opportunity for change. There's still space, there's still opportunity to move. Yeah. Because a line can be a line anywhere. Or a line could be a dot. you know what I'm saying? So when you confine something like that in the mind and in the language, then there's no there's very little room for change. There's very little room to evolve. And we're not saying that that's not possible at those levels. We're just saying it requires a lot. Okay, mahalo. I thought I heard somebody chime in, and then I thought I saw Robin's box light up. So did anybody have any questions or insights, contributions here before we get to Joe? Joe, I thought I heard you say you want to take it in another direction. Okay. Sure, then let's go with that. Joe, where would you like to go?
Yeah, I just so I'm thinking about, intuition, and as you were saying, people want to be able to understand their intuition and to be able to connect to it, and to know the right course of action. And so, can you speak to what are the best ways to start to engage your intuition? I mean, the Western mind has taken people so far away from, understanding and really tuning into intuition. And some people have very strong intuitions, and some people have to train it. But I'm just sort of wondering how you're taught to start to fully engage, that intuition. And given that it's the voice of the ancestors within, it's literally our sort of guidance system, in this universe for communicating and the receive back loop, if you like. So yeah, if you can speak a bit about how we get out of our minds and into our intuition in order to connect.
Look, the ways in which our ancestors taught it are very unpopular methods. Yeah. And those methods are still the methods that we utilize today. Right. So, for example, when I first started learning from Lawrence, we were in Halava. He said to me, "Kuli kuli kwa'a, he hana pa kwa'a, he moi pipiao, maka ala ke'ea." Close your mouth. Shut your mouth. Open your ears and pay attention with your eyes. And after he did that, he placed me under kapu. And a kapu is a restriction. It's a sacred restriction. And that restriction was I was not to speak. Yeah. No matter what was going on around me. Even if others were speaking to me, asking me questions, no matter where I was, if we happened to be in town, if I happened to be at my parents having dinner, if we were most definitely, if we were in Halava, if we were visiting Uncle Filippo down the dirt road, if we were, helping somebody clear their taro patch in the valley, I was forbidden to speak. And we do this because when you do that, you enter into silence. And silence is where you can reach the stillness. Your intuition requires a stillness in your being. And it's a stillness that once is achieved, once it's tapped into, the stillness is different for every single person. But once you tap into it, once you touch it, once you're attuned to it, yeah, it doesn't go anywhere. So, and it doesn't matter what's happening around you. But the methods, again, the methods of doing so are not popular. Your intuition requires getting rid of any of that shit in your brain that says, oh, well, excuse my language, but says, fuck this guy. Who does he think he is to tell me not to share my thoughts, not to share my opinion? Yeah. Intuition is devoid of opinion. It's devoid of thinking. Yeah, it's devoid of interpretation. And that's everything that the Western mind is based on. And we train our children from a very, very young age in the Western system to raise their hand, to ask their question, and to be given their answer. That entire system is the direct opposite of the traditional Hawaiian way of educating our children in how to listen to their intuition. Yeah. And it's even those old school ways of training our children, indeed, not just our children, but anybody today, in how to really engage their intuition, how to really listen to it, how to live their lives accordance to it, guided by it, is in direct opposition. Yeah. Here's another example, right? In the 1960s, mid 1960s to 1970, we were finally able to educate our children in the Hawaiian language, and we had an opportunity, yeah, to develop our own schools where every subject is taught all in Hawaiian, right? Olelo no ia, yeah, the language of Hawaii. And at that time, yeah, a lot of the school boards thought, oh, what a great opportunity we have. Look, let's get some of our kupunas, let's get some of our elders into our schools to teach our children the language, because we have this great opportunity now and we have a platform to do so. What they didn't anticipate, however, is the kind of burden that it would place upon our elders, because our elders have come from a very different school. Yeah. In the elder school, right, in the old school way, if you act up or you say something that's not maikai, that's not good, you're going to get pa'i'd. You're going to get hit. And the elders didn't have a problem disciplining you. But you put that into a Western school system and you've got a lot of problems on your hands. So all of that, honestly, when people come to and ask, to learn how to tap into their intuition, how to really listen to it, 99% of the time they have no idea what they're really asking for. Yeah, because intuition has something to do with, understanding the synchronicities in life. And knowing that you're going to be at the right place at the right time. Or intuition has been watered down to something like, we're going to pick a card for the day. And whatever hand, whatever card your hand picks up, that's intuitively what the card you're supposed to have. And that's the message. That's the understanding of intuition today. Intuition is a force. It's not just something you have to sit and listen to. And more importantly, the intuition isn't going to tell you what needs to be done the way that the Western mind conceptualizes it's going to be. Yeah. Many people, it's a struggle to understand their intuition because they're used to raising their hand and having a teacher tell them the answer. So they're going into it thinking, okay, I'm going to raise my intuitive hand and then the answer is just going to be given to me. And that's not anywhere near how it works. Our ancient ancestors, you know what language they were masters of? And this is why I'm speaking. This is what I've tapped on. The English language that I'm speaking in, the oral language of our ancestors, being able to teach our children in an education, a Western education program, all in Hawaiian. Right? The language that our ancestors were masters of was the language of silence. That's the mastery that they were on. You don't have to ask why. You don't have to ask when, where, who, how. All of those questions go away if you just pay attention. No distractions. And you want to know another reason why the old school ways of our ancestors of how to teach somebody how to live their lives with their intuition is that there's so many distractions today. And nobody wants to leave those comforts. And when they start, when they come and they're like, yeah, I really want to learn how to listen to my intuition. I really want to, I'm going to do it. I'm willing to do it. And they start moving in that direction and they find out really what they're asking for. And it's like, oh, wait, never mind. I'll go back to pulling cards. It's much easier. That was much easier. It's all good. I'm happy to kick it with my crystals and pull my card once a day. It's fine. I don't really need to tune in my relationship with my intuition that bad. But that's how. And places removing yourself. You want to know the quickest way? The quickest way to start listening to your intuition, start engaging your intuition. Remove every single distraction from your life. Every single one. And still then it's going to take some time. Because you got to wean yourself, you got to completely, you got to detox from it before you can actually settle into what it is. So it requires a lot of gumption. In Halava, it was perfect. It was brilliant. No modern conveniences. No electricity, no lights. No electricity, no telephone, nothing. When it's dark, it's dark. Yeah. Boom, period. Yeah. And there's lots of mysticalness surrounding. There's lots of the mystical surrounding the intuition today. And the intuition really it's this most simplest guiding facet of your being. And it's attuned to all of your ancestors around you. So when it's dark, it's dark. When it's light, it's light. And then in Alava, you know what I mean? It was like that. Strip away the conveniences, strip away the distractions. That is the quickest, simplest, most direct way to be able to start engaging with your intuition. And, you know, go work in the land. Go work in the land. Watch the birds. Go work in the ocean. Watch the tides. Watch the fish. The moon, the sun, the wind, the rain, your ancestors. Go into them. Watch them. And then you'll know. Intuition really is about knowing. No if, ands, or buts, no questions. You know. So be quiet. Don't speak. Drain the mind. All of the guards gotta come down. That's great question. Love that one. Oh, look here, I got a story. So right, we were sitting in we're in Halava, yeah, and we're out on our lanai, out on the little small veranda that we had on our very humble home in the valley. And there's a rock wall that we live behind, and there's an opening in the rock wall with a stone path that leads up to the veranda of our home, the lanai, right? And I'm sitting there. We just got done. It was in the afternoon. We just got done working in the taro fields, in the taro patches. These big water, we call it big water patches, right? Beautiful things like that. There for centuries. Old stones that make the walls of these. Basically, they're pools, right? They're water pools. To grow kalo, to grow taro in. And out there every morning, just after sunrise, work till the afternoon. In the taro patches. And anyways, we were sitting on the, I was sitting on the veranda and having a cup of coffee. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking out into the yard. And as I'm sitting there, there's these toads that begin to jump through the rock wall opening, right? And having my coffee. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, not a problem. Like a couple minutes later, there's like 3 more toads that jump through. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I was watching them, and I didn't know it, right? I didn't know it at the time, but I'm sitting there, having my coffee on my veranda, watching these toads. But Lawrence was standing at the kitchen door, watching me watch the toads. And he said, he came out, and he said, Kawika, what are those toads telling you? And I looked at him, and I was like, what do you mean? What are they telling me? Like, what are those toads trying to tell you? And I said, I don't know. He was like, yes, you do. What are the toads telling you? So I look back out on them. I'm looking at them, and then they're making their way up the hill into the trees, right? Into the forest, into the trees, and disappearing under the cover, right, of the low cover of the vegetation there. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and I turned to Lawrence. I said, I know what it is. And he was like, okay, tell me, what are they doing? And I said, they're going into the forest to have an orgy. And he doesn't say one word. He just turns around, heads back to the kitchen, and before he closes the door, he says to me, he says, Kawika, he says, make sure that you have all of your belongings up off of the floor this evening. Yeah. And that everything is together in your room, because there's going to be a big flood tonight. And sure enough, right, just after dinner, it broke. The storm broke, and all of it was just you could hear it. You could hear the boulders in the river like thunder, like, and rumbling the house, right? Because there's so much water. Just ripping through the river. And that's what the toads were telling me, right? The toads that make their home in the taro fields, on the embankment of the river closest to the water, yeah, are making their way from their home to high ground, yeah, to survive the storm that they knew was coming. So again, this is how your intuition works. This is how your intuition communicates to you. So anyway, spend as much time as you can in nature, or what the Western world calls nature. And watch your ancestors, listen to your ancestors. It's not our ancestors' fault. It's not the wind's fault. It's not the trees' fault. It's not the waterfall's fault. It's not our ancestors' fault that we forgot how to listen to them. So that's my contribution to your question, Joe. Oh. And really, no, some people might say, well, okay, well, that's all fine and dandy, but I can't just pack up my life and disappear. You're right. Not a lot of people can. But if you want to communicate with your intuition, if that's really what you want, and you want to live your life in accordance to it, you want to be in constant, continual communication with your ancestors, that's what it takes. And in the old school way of our kupunas, of our elders, of our ancestors, there's no shortcuts around that. There's no tablet, there's no supplement, there's no shortcut for it. That's what it requires. And no matter where you are in the world. Mahalo. Any any other contributions, folks? Any other topics? That was a fun one.
Kawika, I just want to know how long you were under how long were you under Kapu for? Or were you under many?
A long time. You know what? It changes. You know, as I've told the story over the years, it changes. Sometimes it's like 3 weeks, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 5 months. You know what I mean? It completely, honestly, and the reason it does so is because once I finally broke into it, no, there's no such thing as time. There's no time, there's no space. Not in silence, not in the stillness. So once you breach it, once you break it, my direct experience with that, yeah, that it completely I can't tell you exactly. As long as it needed to. As long as it needed to happen. You know? That's the best answer. You know, as long as it needed to. But really, when I, you know, when there's something about the number 3, the 3 weeks or 3 months, it feels, yeah, like that. But it could have been longer, or it could have been shorter. Mahalo. Okie dokie. Any more inspirations, contributions, questions?
Is it just talking, or could you make sounds, or was it complete silence?
Yeah, no. No sounds, no talking.
Breathing sounds.
Yeah, well, breathing can. Yeah, if you'd like. And it was
I'm
the
thinking
sound.
about,
You
like,
know,
making up, like the sounds that you make. Like, did you just not engage in things that?
Oh, no. No. It's all of those sounds. You know, it's all of those sounds. But no speaking, no. None of that. No. You know. Just quiet. Just
It's
close
the
your mouth.
noise, the noise.
Yeah. But that's a really great layer to go through. You know what I mean? That's a really great space. I remember those layers. Those are some of the first layers that I progressed through was, oh wow, you know, how much noise do I make? And yeah, everything became really loud. Definitely became really loud. And you can really distinguish sound, you know, and who's making it. I became very attuned to the way Lawrence makes sounds. And I can, you know, blindfolded, can hear the way that he makes sound. because all of it integrates. Your weight, yeah, your weight, your hair, your breath, your everything. Yeah. But it was even more fun. You know, he would take me to go engage. Yeah, he would take me and he would be engaging, right, with the elders, with the kupunas. And oh my gosh, those were some of the most enlightening moments of learning. Yeah. We really watch them and how they make sound. Really watch them and how they communicate. Yeah. One gesture, one eye movement, one breath or no breath, yeah, can tell 1,000 words. And then apply all of that to the birds and the wind, the rain. This is why the winds have names. Yeah. They were ancestors, and they're very specific ancestors. Yeah. Rains are very different. Winds are very different. And when it's that temperature, when it's moving from that direction, when it has that smell, Lawrence always used to say to me, taste the wind. Don't just feel it, taste the wind. So, yeah, that kind. That kind of stuff. Whoa. Mm-hmm. And you know what you brought forward to me too, Donna, is that, you know, silence isn't quiet. Silence is not quiet. Silence is really loud.
I was just inspired. Look, I was going to say one final mahalo and then shut myself up, but obviously I cannot help it right now. It's something I've been preparing for a while because I do want to be more quiet and just listen, because I do know how important that is and how generous of a gift that is from our ancestors. And just with my personal learning, like when you're out away from other people, it's very, very easy to be quiet and everything gets very loud. And it's just moving into those spaces where people are talking at you and you just want to be a part of it. But really it's okay to hold silence and just listen and engage, completely be engaged and present without speaking in those moments too. I noticed it like at a brunch yesterday and a lot of people just talking like, but not wanting to say anything. Really the intuition, not having the energy there just to talk for no reason, just listening. And yeah, thank you so much for the question, Joe. I really needed to hear all of that again. So mahalo.
That was just amazing, Kawika. And it's like, okay, I want to pack my bags. I'm going. But hide in the bushes up here in the hills. I don't know.
Totally.
But thank you. That was wonderful. Food for thought.
Yeah. Mm. Mahalo. Okay. Are we ready? Are we ready to wrap this up? Do you have some closing announcements, Joe?
Yes. So this is going to be our last Kukakuka until January, because in 2 weeks' time it's getting really close to Christmas and everyone's going to be really busy. And yeah, so we just thought it's better to, just park it, and then we'll make an announcement when we're starting up again in January. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoys a lot of silence over the next month, and we'll come back and see where it's taken everyone. All right, mahalo. I just want to say, mahalo, and so grateful, Kawika and Catherine, for being here and for all you've shared. And the replays are such an incredible resource to go back to and to really sink into. And we've covered so much, and it's goes in so many different directions and levels and layers. So I'm really grateful. And I know there's a lot of people, who are watching replays. There's some people who've said they're too shy to come on Zoom, and they're watching, the replay. So hopefully we'll tempt them out in the end. But yeah, as long as people are enjoying and moving with the teachings and getting what they can out of it, then it's sort of all good. So just thank you so much, Kawika, for your time, and it's just been wonderful. Really grateful, and thank you. I think Catherine's had to go, but very grateful to Catherine's presence as well. Mahalo, everyone.
Mahalo, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the new year. Take care, everyone. Aloha.